Hello, welcome to complementary colors. We in class we took a look at some of our primary colors or our complementary colors, excuse me, and we said our complementary colors can best be described as opposite one another on the color wheel. For instance, if we had our color wheel out in front of us and we had yellow, opposite yellow would be violet. If we had orange in front of us, orange, opposite of orange is blue, and then opposite of red would be green. We talked about the significance of complementary colors. They do great at contrasting. All right, they really contrast to the eye. We see a lot of complementary colors in our everyday surroundings, especially with our sports teams, our holidays. For instance, we said LA Lakers. The significance is they just won the NBA Finals, but we recognize the Lakers here. Blue and orange, Chicago Bears. Red and green, we said Christmas. So you can see the significance. They just resonate, these colors, with the eye. But I want to show you guys how to apply them in a color and when approaching a form to add color to it. For instance, we're going to add a lightness and darkness value just using our first two complementary color pairs. Okay, so we're going to start always with our light color first. All right, so we want to take our sphere, and again, you can do four forms here. I'd like you to do four: a sphere, a cylinder, a cone, and a cube. And if you've forgotten how to do these, I can just go over real quick for you. Our sphere is going to be easy because you can just take one of those templates that we talked about, and you can just make your sphere here if you have one nearby. We said you can use just something to trace it around. Coin, quarter is fine. It's up to you. And if you recall how we're going to do our cylinder, we said a cylinder begins with just a collapsed circle, right, an ellipse, and then we draw down two parallel lines from it, and then we want to capture the turn of the top plane, and you can just kind of do an ellipse, but just let the bottom of your pencil or bottom of the ellipse happen. You don't need to do the interior, but if you really feel you need to, go ahead and do it. You can always erase it out. But that's how we approach doing a cylinder. And then for our cone is nothing more than two sides of the triangle, right, or upside down V with an ellipse at the bottom. All right, you can put the ellipse in there or not. Again, we have a eraser, so we can always take it out. All right, and then our cube is pretty easy. I just kind of going to start with just this like straight line right here. All right, and then I'm going to work on the top plane first, and the top plane is going to be nothing more than two angled lines like that, followed by another line over here that's parallel to this, so something like so, and then this side is parallel to that line. So there's the top plane. Easy enough, right? We followed this little straight line here, this vertical line, and then we know that the rules the cube is made out of parallel. So if I know this line, I know this one because it's parallel to the center line we made, and then I know this edge because it's parallel to the center line as well. So parallel, parallel. Now we can answer the bottom ones too, because if this is like this, then this one's parallel to it, then this one has to be parallel as well. Same with our last line, parallel to here. All right. Now, if we have to clean up, we have our little bit of our eraser, our kneaded eraser. We also can use, we also can use our straight edge if we need to tidy up any of our lines of our forms. So feel free to just use your straight edge there. And then again, if you have your kneaded eraser, that gray one that just is mushy, you can come in and clean up any overlapping lines that you had in there, or anything you don't like there. All right, so that looks kind of like so. So that's how you would do your four forms. Now let's get back to how we're going to apply color to these guys. We said we're going to start with this pair, our yellow and violet, and we're going to say that our light source is going to be upper right hand corner like it's been for pretty much all of our stuff to date. And I can just kind of do that right now, so I know that all of these here are going to be upper right hand corner light sources. Okay, makes it easy, eliminates any guessing. Next, let's grab our yellow, or our canary yellow. Let's get that in here, 2-3 pressure, right? We don't want to start off too hard. We want to make sure that we have good coverage. Definitely don't want to have any streaking or grain, any lines that you can see from our shading or our coloring. Okay, we want to make this just a nice flat, non-distinguishable direction of application of color. All right, take your time. We said side to side, back and forth, up and down, small circles, figure eights, till you have good coverage on top of your sphere. So take a few moments here. Again, I'm going to be moving quickly for broadcasting purposes. I don't want to take forever, but I also want to make sure that you understand too that it does take a little bit of time to do a nice job applying color, because if we leave any holes through there, any of the white of the paper showing up through the surface, it's definitely going to make some grain that you don't yet see. So really do a good job of laying down this initial first color. Okay, that's super important here. Now let's go back to our knowledge of a sphere. We know that this is a rounded form, all right, and we're going to start with applying the violet opposite of the light source, and we're going to keep it on a curve, and it's going to be darker opposite the light, and as it comes towards the light, it's going to loosen up. So let's just imagine we're going to start with a that 2-3 pressure. We'll start with a 3 back here. Okay, so we're going to make sure our tip of our pencil has been sharpened. We're going to make sure that we're working on a curve, and we know that our shadow will probably end somewhere near here where the light hits by the form and passes across it. And again, remember, your paper's not locked down and rooted to the surface. Move your paper around so your hand is comfortable. All right. Again, everybody, comfort's different for everybody, but I know for me, I like to definitely move my paper around a little bit so I'm not in like funny positions when I'm trying to shade. Again, this is going to be tough right here as you go with, you're only using two colors to approach values. So you really have to look at this as a feather now, just sweeping across the surface here as you're coming towards the light. You don't want to have a banding or striping. You want it to just blend nice and seamless into the yellow. And it can be done. It takes a little bit of time. You got to really loosen up that pressure. All right, you can't have that same pressure that you use back here up in the front. All right, and once you get the initial value down or color down, you can start to push a little harder back here, and again blending out as you come to the center or towards the light, right? So we're going to just keep working a little bit more pressure and then loosen it up as we get towards the light. Again, this takes a little bit of time, so again, don't rush it. Sharp pencil, rotate your pencil, all those little techniques I taught you, side to side, on a curve, up and down, small circles, figure eights, whatever works for you in any combination. As long as it works for you, I'm good with it. All right. Now, if you're kind of right there and you're like, I want to try to blend this out a little more, I always go back in with the previous color, and I want to mix these two together a little bit. So I'm going back in with my yellow, trying to get a little more blend to happen there. And I'm thinking to myself, this still isn't dark enough. I'm going to push a little bit harder on this back side. I really want to sell the illusion of three-dimensional form. So that in order to do that, I got to push a little bit harder here and blend it out, make it look a little more contrasty. Is that a word, contrasty? I don't even know. We'll say it is for today. All right. And you'll notice that when you mix over these two colors, these complements, they blend pretty well together. They almost make like a brownish color. Call that a tone, right? So the two complementary colors mixed together create this tone, this brown tone, or brownish tone. But again, the nice thing about this is once you learn about using complementary colors to shade, your work when you're working with color is really going to become rich. So for example, you have a lemon and you have to shade a lemon that has a high intense light source. Your initial reaction is probably going to be to grab a black color pencil and do the shading. I want you to toss that notion out. The first thing you should be grabbing is the yellow, the yellow's complementary color, which is violet or purple, and use that. That should be your go-to, especially when you're doing painting, but just really start working that into your mindset. We don't want to use a black and a yellow. You're going to get a really gross color there for one thing, and that's just really not true. I don't like to call it true when we're talking about shading. I really think personally that your work looks more rich when you're using complementary colors to address value. All right, and hopefully as you get more experience, you'll agree with that statement as well. But right now, maybe you don't. But over time, hopefully you'll form your own opinion on that. All right, so again, I'm going to finish this off a little bit here with my yellow because I want the two to blend together. So nice and rich. I'm pushing just a tad bit harder now. Now maybe I'm going to a 3/4 here, really blending that in. And that's going to be our look there, okay? So again, you can push harder if you want. You don't have to, but that's initially how we're going to do it. You see my purples back here, and as it came closer to the light source, I really faded it out. Really kept the idea of the circular form of the sphere, right? Again, you can go in, you can do a little bit more work if you want. Again, these are demo purposes. I don't want to take forever. You can keep working on that. Next one we're going to look at is our orange and blue. In our orange and blue, again, we're going to go with our lightest color on the surface first. So let's take our orange. Let's put that down on our surface here. We're going to work on getting the whole form with a nice even coat of orange. I'm going right now up and down. I will go a little bit side to side, but more on a curve when I start to go the other way because I don't want to run the risk of flattening out this form. So you'll see me when I rotate this a little bit, I'm going to now go a little bit on a curve, just like I have at the edges of the top and the bottom of my sphere, just to try not to flatten this out and make too much grain in there. I don't want any grain at all, honestly. So I'm just going to kind of now go in here now that I've got color all over, and this is now when I can start using the side to side, up and down, small circles, figure 8, just getting that nice value, color value or color coverage on my form here. And then I can also get my top going here. I'm going to kind of go with the same direction as the ellipse up here as a color. But now we're going to enter in our color's complement, which is our blue or our ultramarine blue, and we're going to start opposite the light source. So that's going to be this backside. Now don't forget, don't go all the way through because this cylinder has a top plane. We have to be aware and conscious of this edge here, right? So you might want to start with that edge so you don't forget. Again, putting in your 2-3 pressure, probably a 2 to start, especially as you come to the center. You don't want to go too hard because then it's going to get stripy and bandy. So you can go 2-3 pressure back here, but definitely as you start getting towards this middle spot, you want to start pulling back on your pressure so it fades into the orange, right? Just blends right in seamlessly. Nice, what we call a smooth transition. We want to have a smooth transition from blue to orange, right? And that's going to take a little bit of concentration and a little bit of patience, right? Because blue is definitely a little bit more harsh color-wise than orange, and you're going to notice that if you push too hard, it's going to be harder to transition, or from blue to orange here. Really got to take that feather concept. That's just a feather right here, brushing over the surface. Okay, feathers in my hand, brushing over the surface, and just mixing the orange and the blue together, all right, for this initial approach here. Now that I've kind of got my blue coverage on here, I'm going to go side to side, back and forth, up and down, small circles, figure 8, all right, and then I'm also going to come back a little bit and work my orange in the transition area a little bit, just to see how the two blend over one another. Again, you're going to get that kind of like that brown, what we call a tone happen there. And right here, I want to take a little bit more of this green out, so I'm just going to go back a little softer here. And then I'm going to push a little bit harder on our back side now, because I'm ready to start to make this look three-dimensional. So again, I got to up the contrast a little bit. How do I do that? I up the pressure of my pencil. All right, up the pressure of the pencil. But again, it's got to transition smoothly. So while if it's dark here, that's fine for now. But as it gets towards the middle, we're going to definitely have to blend the colors into each other, and that is going to be done with changing our pressures. All right, you cannot use the same pressure I'm using right here as I would over here. If you do, you're going to have some pretty poor results. Okay, and just being honest with you, you got to use a variation in pressures. All right. So again, you see how this is starting to look here. We could definitely up that blend a little bit here by taking our lighter color, our orange, going back over. You see I'm using small circles here to kind of blend the two colors together. Don't be nervous, they work well together. Just be confident. We can go lighter first. You don't have to go heavy-handed. And then just start to work the two over till you get it to a point that you're comfortable with, that you like. All right, and that's again kind of to taste, right? You're like a cook. You're a visual cook. We'll just call it that. And you're going to get it to your taste. All right. So there we go with our value for our two colors. We got the nice value there. We used the upper right-hand corner. Now we're going to finish our last one here, which is going to be our cone with our red and our green. All right. So red's going to be our lightest one. So let's get our red out here. Let's get some good coverage here of our cone. Hopefully you drew a nice semi-accurate to accurate cone. 2-3 pressure with our initial coverage here, which is with our red. And we're going to think back to some of the characteristics of shading a cone. If we remember back that towards the top where it gets tapered at, the shadow gets narrower. As it goes down towards the bottom, the shadow gets wider. So that's one thing that we've got to understand, that the shadow changes as it's narrower up here, and as it comes down towards the bottom, it's going to get wider. We got to remember that this is a curved surface, so it's rounded, and as it gradually goes from dark to light. right, as it comes around towards the light, right? So we'll stay true to our past techniques. We're going to take our darker color and apply it opposite the light source, and we're going to use a 2-3 pressure. I'm going to start the direction of the form, which is kind of up and down. I'm going to acknowledge that it's wider, my shadow down here, than it would be up here. We want to be sure that we don't have the striping or banding. I don't want to see this shape get cut in half. I want you to blend it out by, again, thinking of your pencil when it gets to this point as a feather, just brushing back and forth on the surface until it just blends into seamlessly into the red. All right, that takes a little bit of practice, I know, but I believe that each of you can do that, and will be able to do that eventually as you keep practicing and applying yourself. So back side here, I'm going a little bit darker now. My pressure back here a little bit lighter as I get towards the front surface. I'm rotating my paper a little bit too, so my hand's in a comfortable spot. Back and forth, side to side, figure eights, small circles. Grab the lighter color, go back, apply it over the top of the dark. You really want to blend the two together. Can't blend them together if they don't overlap each other. It's very hard to do that without applying the colors over one another. And again, if you think you want to go a little darker on the back side here, go for it. Again, to taste, visual cook. All right, you'll get it. All right, now we've got one form left. You can decide, go back and do any of these again and practice there. All right, so maybe something like so. All right, that'll do it for our complementary colors. Good luck. Make sure you get this done.